Hello everyone, my name is Sam Hutchison and welcome to episode 3 of Taylor's Tales, the series where we get nothing wrong. Everything is historically accurate. Okay, so I lied. I might have messed up a lot of stuff on Palo Alto. I was trying to put so much information into that video. I missed some stuff, or I said some stuff that I didn't mean to say. So that's what the first part of this video is going to be about. But afterwards, we're going to be talking about the Battle of Resaca de la Palma, May 9th, 1846, and continue the story of Taylor's Tales and Taylor's campaigns in Mexico. Make sure you like, subscribe, and if you want more content, obviously, you guys have been supporting this channel so much. I really want to thank you. We're over 100 subscribers, which is awesome. So I'm really glad you guys are liking these videos being posted by me and Cameron. Cameron is beating me by a lot with the videos he's been posting. I so far only have, this is episode 3, and he has the POTUS Classic, the Presidential Kids Corner, and Fireside. He's going off. I'm using a new setup. I don't know if you haven't, been able to tell. You probably have. The setups of each episode are different. The first episode was at the school, then quarantine happened, and then it was in my basement, and now we're in my room. But I think the setup's pretty cool. I got the Betsy Ross flag here, the Bennington flag behind me, George Washington, and a 1776 flag thing. So I really like this setup. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the inaccuracies that I messed up on. Okay, so first inaccuracy that I messed up on. So in the episode I might have said that this is the first time the United States is invading a foreign country. That's wrong. That is very, very wrong. So wrong. By this point in American history, we have invaded so many places that I'm not going to list them all, but it's a lot. The start of when we started invading can go back all the way to the Revolution if we want to go. Benedict Arnold was sent to take Montreal and Quebec, the cities in Canada. He was able to take Montreal, but he failed at Quebec. And then if you want to talk about the wars that we fought with the Native Americans, supplying more land, Manifest Destiny, technically call that an invasion of the Indian tribes or reservations. And most certainly, definitely, the Barbary Wars. It was basically there was a bunch of pirates on the northern African coast, and we didn't really like them so much because they're pirates. So we went to war with them twice, and we took Tripoli, and we actually raised the Stars and Stripes over the city. So yeah, but this is going to be the United States is actually occupying a nation's capital with the Mexican-American War, but that does involve Taylor, so we're not going to be covering it unless after we talk about Taylor's campaigns, on the Mexican-American War, and the wars that came before this, like the War of 1812, Black Hawk's War, and the Second Seminole War. Then we can talk about that if you guys want to. Second inaccuracy that made me look stupid. We talk about the Siege of Fort Texas, which I said ended May 6th. It ended May 9th. When I was talking about it last episode, I told you how he didn't want to face a siege and a battle at the same time. I was trying to say that, well, yes, what I said was true. I meant in the fact that he didn't want to have to be sieging this fort, and then Taylor would have showed up at the fort with this army and have to fight Taylor, but also deal with the soldiers in the fort at the same time. So Artista decides to take most of his army and goes to attack Taylor, and leaves some forces back to siege out the fort for a little bit more. All you need to know, siege ends May 9th, not May 6th. Interestingly enough, though, the commander of the fort actually died on May 6th. He was the one of 2 killed, I believe, during the entire siege. This is an inaccuracy that I said because I never stated it, and I don't know why I left this out because it's kind of important as we continue. So, as you guys know, last episode I talked about the father of modern artillery, Samuel Rheingold. Pretty important for the Army of Occupation. We talked about Rheingold flying horse artillery, very important during the Battle of Palo Alto. But just so you know, at the end of Palo Alto, Rheingold is dead. Very much dead. He is killed during the battle by a cannonball to both of his legs, and dies pretty brutally. It's a big loss for the Army of Occupation because he was a great help for the army with his artillery tactics. So just so you know, Rheingold is dead. So with all of my stupid inaccuracies out of the way, we can actually get into today's episode of the Battle of Resaca de la Palma. I'm going to begin with May 8th, the Battle of Palo Alto. Now, Taylor's counting his dead and wounded and getting the estimates of the casualties that the Mexicans took, a couple of hours prior during the Battle of Palo Alto. He finds out that Rheingold's dead, and he's very saddened by the loss, but he does not have time to mourn his loss. He must pursue the Mexican army, which is what he does on the morning of May 9th. Meanwhile, Artista is getting ready. He's going towards the siege of Fort Texas, which is going on right now. And he finds a Resaca. Basically, Resaca, is a dried out channel, mostly dried out. It's not completely dried out during the battle, but it's kind of like a ravine that the Mexican army tries to use. I tried showing this in the game, but it's kind of really hard to simulate that because the terrain is so unique that it's kind of hard to replicate that in the game. Artista, we have to give him a lot of credit. He's pretty smart about, his setup and his position because it's greatly defended. This ravine is, kind of using Mexican soldiers are occupying this ravine, and his cannons are more towards the front of his army because he knows that the entire reason he really lost Palo Alto is because his artillery couldn't match the Americans. And that's what the Americans had. They had better artillery that could hit them more accurately and at longer ranges. And there was no way he could really counter that. So this is why he chooses to defend at the Resaca that will lead up to this battle. He decides, and hopefully Cam will put a map up here in the corner, like right here maybe. You can see that he uses the 2nd Infantry and a small battery of cannons led by Romelio Vega, I believe his name. His name is very long, but we're just going to call him General Vega. He'll be important later on. He basically sets up this little roadblock to, kind of halt the American army and then uses the rest of the Resaca to kind of hide his army and prepare for a great battle with this, this natural defenses that he's been able to find. Meanwhile, Taylor is using his skirmishers to scout out ahead of the rest of the army. Now, if you remember from the very first episode of the series and the very first episode of this channel where I talk about, oh my god, I'm so sorry guys, you can barely see me thanks to the stupid sunlight. Oh no, that's not good. All right, well, I'll move my camera so you don't have to see that. Oh, I just made it worse. I'm so sorry, guys. So skirmishers. Very first episode of the channel, I cover 19th century warfare. I talk about skirmishers, which were basically a type of light infantry that use highly accurate rifles and longer range rifles that could be very devastating to the army. They were used to harass and kind of trap in the enemy army, but also it's used in this case. They can be used to scout out the area ahead of them to alert the rest of the army, which is exactly what happens here. The skirmishers that are leading the charge for Taylor's army towards the Mexican army is led by Captain McCall. Now, McCall spots these Mexican artillery and this regiment of Mexican soldiers, and soon finds that they are starting to shoot back at him. They have also been spotted, and a small skirmish has begun. So McCall quickly pulls back a bit, goes to Taylor, and basically says, "Hey, right in front of us is the entire Mexican army. They have a little roadblock set up, but I know exactly where to set up our artillery, and we can definitely destroy this little roadblock that they've tried to put in here to stop us from going towards Fort Texas." And Taylor's like, "Great, good job. But here's the thing, McCall. You have to engage them. You have to fire a little bit at them as more regiments from the army, finally make it up towards where you are and support you. And by that time, By the time you get more support, you can go around and try and flank them from both sides. So McCall is like, okay, he goes back and he starts engaging with the Mexican roadblock. Meanwhile, more regiments of the U.S. Army are finally making it to the field, and Taylor starts moving them around. He desperately needs to figure out how to get rid of this Mexican great defense that Ortista's been able to set up. So basically, this is what he decides to do. He takes the 3rd and the 4th Infantry and tries to go around the Resaca. On the left side is the Mexican left flank, and they haven't really defended that well enough. Now behind the Resaca, behind the roadblock and where the Mexicans are positioned, is the Mexican camp, where coincidentally Artista's headquarters is. So basically, the 3rd and the 4th are able to go around and engage with the camp, engage with the army on its left, and completely surprise them. And, that causes a great deal of damage, especially because they just took one of the batteries, cannon batteries that are, used to support the roadblock if they get attacked. But they just got attacked. So it really throws off the Mexican army. The Rheingold artillery, which is now being commanded by a lieutenant, is drawing the fire of the cannon battery that is at the roadblock and is able to draw their fire, where a cavalry division of dragoons is able to charge, actually pass the regiment and the 2nd Mexican regiment and the artillery there, and charge in and completely wipe out the artillery and capture General Vega. The cavalry is led by May, May's dragoons. There's a really good painting of it that just looks really cool, and there's some pictures of it. It's really cool. It's a really great victory because they're able to capture Vega, which is pretty important, and it really just hurts the morale of the Mexican army. So while basically the 3rd and the 4th are going through the entire Mexican camp, May is able to push the roadblock, and Taylor is like, look, send in the 5th and the 8th. Tell them to go down there and secure those guns. Secure the other cannons, and we've got them. We are able to capture all their artillery that they have on hand, and they're basically surrounded by the main point of where they wanted us to show up, but now we got them on the left. So the 5th and the 8th, ordered by General Taylor himself, go down and attack the roadblock and successfully take the cannons, which cause a massive panic within the Mexican army, and Mexican soldiers start fleeing everywhere, and they start scattering. And Artista is kind of freaking out, so he goes to Torreon's cavalry, which we talked about. He was the one that led many cavalry charges towards artillery and such and infantry during the Battle of Palo Alto, but this time he's very reluctant to give command to Artista of his cavalry, or to take orders from Artista himself. So Artista's like, okay, fine, I'm going to be commanding your own cavalry unit, and I'm going to try to salvage this situation. I'm going to try to fix this mess I've kind of made for ourselves. He leads a charge towards the 5th and the 8th, and he's actually able to save a lot of his infantry, from that situation, but it doesn't help. It honestly ends with this massive panic, so bad for Artista that his soldiers are starting to go south, and now there's reports of the Mexican army crossing the Rio Grande. The United States Army, the Army of Occupation, is able to march in and just they're able to capture so many Mexican soldiers. It's honestly a very interesting battle, and it's very important because this is literally a day after Palo Alto, a battle that Taylor has just won, and now he's just secured a 2nd victory, and the public is going to go crazy over this. This is one of the battle that really helps him with his fame. It's really his boost of morale he's able to give his troops is really what helps him win these battles. I mean, there's literally a famous quote during the battle to General Taylor, and basically as one of his advisors, he says to him, look, we're very close to the line, sir. I don't want you to get hit. You could get shot. We're at the range. So Taylor simply turns to him and he says, Well, then, if we're so close to range, let's move closer so the bullets can fall behind us. Dude, he's so freaking cool. Taylor is an awesome general to talk about. The fact that we don't talk about him that much is very interesting because the stuff he does at Resaca de Palma and Palo Alto, they're very traditional, yes, but his ability to give such a great boost of morale is what makes him a good general. And this is something we really haven't talked about is what makes a good general. That's really two characteristics. It's very good at tactics, very tactical, and intelligence, and sometimes able to inspire. Its inspiration is a great uh, characteristic to be as a general, and that's what Taylor is. He's very inspirational towards his troops. The Battle of Resaca de Palma is another great victory for Taylor. The Mexican army flees, along with Artista, the army of the North, which is what the Mexican army is called, just like the United States Army is called the Army of Occupation. Basically, are fleeing. Taylor goes down south. He relieves the siege of Fort Texas. By May 11th, the Thornton affair, which we talked about, which was that skirmish that killed a good amount of U.S. soldiers, finally arrived in Washington, and war is officially declared now. The battles we've been talking about are for a war that has not been declared yet, which I find so very interesting. After the Battle of Resaca de Palma, we can talk about the amount of casualties that both sides took. On Artista's side, he officially reports about 154 dead, 205 wounded, and 156 missing or captured. They were most likely captured by the U.S. And Taylor officially reports after the battle that he actually claims that he buried 200 Mexicans. So the numbers of the dead are conflicted for Resaca de la Palma. But Taylor, says he lost, 49 Americans were killed and 83 were wounded. So compared to the Mexicans, his casualties were very light. Afterwards, Taylor, is able to relieve the siege of Fort Texas, and between I think it's either May 17th or May 18th, Taylor actually goes and seizes the town of Matamoros. There was no resistance from the town. He's able to capture it, and it's now technically in the hands of the U.S. This small Mexican town. Basically, that's it for a while. It's not gonna. His invasion of Mexico is not going to continue until September, where he goes more south towards the city of Monterrey, which is the next battle, is the siege of Monterrey, which is awesome. We actually get to see where Taylor is, questioned. Is Taylor really this great general that I made him out to be? But we're not going to know that until very later on, because he has to get his orders from President Polk himself, because this is a new conflict they have found themselves in. Of course, I'm not going to make you wait until September to hear about this battle, because how am I supposed to be canned then? For right now, next time we will be at Monterrey. My name is Sam Hutchison. Let's hope I didn't make any inaccuracies this time. If I did, please go down in the comments below and tell me how much of a stupid idiot I am. That was the end of episode 3 of Taylor's Tales, and I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. The support from you guys is just awesome. I really can't believe we're over 100 subscribers. For me personally, who loves watching YouTube a lot, this is awesome. This is really awesome for you guys to enjoy this stuff. Besides that, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode.